Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. It's Virginia, and today we're talking about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 6, Episode 6. This is the 67th episode of this podcast. And before I get started talking about Salt Lake City, I just want to mention that I had a wonderful interview with Jasmine Harris of the Innocence Center, and it is coming to you very soon by way of a two-part series special. It was a really, really good interview with a lot of information. I hope that listening to it will give you some insight into this organization that I am involved with, and also just an idea of what's going on out there in our justice system as we listen to podcasts and live our life daily. So I hope you'll listen. I'm very excited to bring it to you. It's coming very soon. And another thing, I have a little bit of a favor to ask. If you are a regular listener of the podcast and you have not gone on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or on YouTube and given me a rating, hopefully it's 5 stars, but be honest, give me whatever rating you think I deserve. Please do so. Please take a moment. If you're a regular listener and you haven't written a review, I could really use that from you right about now. The reason for that is that we're trying to grow this podcast. And as such, I really need your help to help me grow the subscribers, the listenership, and of course, the Instagram following as well. So if you follow me on my personal Instagram, then please shoot over to Living on the Verge podcast and follow me there as well. And if you are following and subscribe to the podcast, make sure you're downloading, make sure you're listening. A few minutes of listening gives me credit for a download, and I am doing my very best to be able to grow this podcast so I can continue to bring it to you because I enjoy it. I'm getting some positive feedback saying you guys are enjoying it. In fact, we did just get a recent 5-star review, and thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Tell a friend. If you can get 2 friends to subscribe, we may be able to get this podcast charting yet. And with the changes that we have been talking about, not huge changes, just little integrations of other really exciting things. For example, my upcoming health and wellness journey, I hope. With all of those exciting things and plus BravoCon, I really want you and your friends to be able to listen to what we have going on. So thank you so much for all of you who are listening and supporting and downloading and following. The rest of you, please take a second to do that. And as such, I will hope to continue to be able to bring you this podcast because I'm really enjoying it and I hope you're enjoying listening. So we're going to talk a little bit about Salt Lake City, and then we'll talk some about some Bravo news and some things that are going on. And let's just go ahead and dive right on in. This episode, to me, I'm not really sure how I felt about it overall, but what I will say is that it gave me insight to Bronwyn and Todd, and in such a way that I kind of already knew this subconsciously, but in watching this scene at the ice cream shop, it came across incredibly, I don't even know the word I'm looking for. So I'm not going to try to define it, but I'll just tell you about it. I was bothered that Todd just is so aloof when it comes to Bronwyn, her feelings, listening to her, looking her in the eye, opening the door for her. Go back and watch. It's not comfortable when you watch it through that lens. Now, maybe I just don't care for Todd, so I'm inherently watching it through that lens and not giving him a shot. And sometimes some of the things he says make a lot of sense to me, and we'll get into that. But for the most part, Bronwyn appears like a scared child when she approaches Todd to speak to him, even when she tries to call him out on something that she doesn't like that he's done. It's just weird. I don't like it. it's giving daddy issues in a big way. And I think I've said that before on this podcast, but it made me sad. They order ice cream. She all but spoon feeds it. She orders it for him. She takes it to him. And I'm all for traditional gender roles, pardon me, if that's what you want. But it doesn't really seem like she has a choice. I don't know. Well, she brings him his ice cream. They sit down. They start to talk about the fact that she's going on this trip with the girls. And Todd's essentially against the whole idea. And before they get into that, she just makes this comment about how her favorite part of having a sundae is saving the cherry for the end. And as she's chatting, he reaches over and grabs her cherry and sticks it in his mouth. I don't know what that was about. I kind of feel like he's purposely trying to be a brat. And maybe it's because he doesn't want to be on the show. But then they start talking about Terrence, and Todd agrees with Corey that Terrence is full of shit. And he starts to really bum Bronwyn out because she's trying to get out the story about the things that Terrence said about his mom. And so much so that she finally says, can you just put your bullshit meter away for a second? And then she gets really emotional. And he kind of, I don't know, he backs off a little bit, but his face says differently. If he was supposed to have become softer by having watched his performance last season, Todd, I'm sorry to say it, I think you're backsliding a little bit, buddy. And that's not to say that I don't understand your frustration with Bronwyn. She wants to keep going back into this situation, and then she can't figure out why she keeps getting the same result. So I get it. She's almost the definition of insanity with regards to her relationship with these girls. But at the end of the day, she has decided she wants to be a part of this franchise. She wants to be on television. And as far as we can see, you've supported her and you're there. So you might as well make the best of it, because the producers are going to give you whatever edit they want. So you might as well not give them a reason to portray you as an idiot or as a pompous asshole. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm going to move on to Lisa's amazing geography skills when she tells her husband, as they're sitting there, that they're going to Canoehuan, and it's by the Galapagos Islands. And then the map shows that it's 2,200 miles away from the Galapagos Islands. Now, I could shade her all I want, but to be fair, I am highly geographically challenged myself. So there are plenty of other ways to come at Lisa. I'm going to leave her alone when it comes to this one. So they start talking, and then she brings up Terrence and the comments that he made regarding the lack of communication in their marriage. And it really does seem like the issues are there. He says something, and then she overrides it to make it all about her. And then she tells us that she wants to be treated like glass. Just because she's a strong woman doesn't mean that she does not have any emotions. And that makes a lot of sense unless you're on the other side of Lisa's emotions. And it makes a lot of sense to me why he would just be over it. It's, he's like, I can't say anything. Every time I say anything, it causes an issue. And, when John says everything Lisa does is perfect, it's just him, he's being sarcastic. He's saying, I can never win with you, lady. And I think it's taken a toll on their relationship. So Mary comes in with a vengeance. She's heading over to Angie's house. I guess they're going to have their big, get together since the fight that happened, pardon me, at the, what would you have called that? Well, it was the wine luncheon, but that's not what it turned out to be. Anyway, she gets greeted at the door, which apparently is a huge thing and big news, because usually Mary makes it very clear she has to let herself in because you're busy doing I don't know what. And Angie, in her kind of comical way, it almost looks very like sitcom, and it cracks me up, honestly. She greets her with, "Here, I have your favorite drink for you. They didn't have the sugar-free kind." And Mary immediately disses the drink and says, "Not only am I not going to drink that because it has 7 cups of sugar, but you shouldn't either." And so Angie wants to make sure that she has a crudité and a little bit of charcuterie. And Mary just wants to get down to the brass tacks of what happened between us. And Angie, of course, starts it off with an apology. And she says that it's just really hard for her not to respond when she feels she's being bullied. Well, Mary says that, "Angie, you're bullying too." And she's mostly upset that she's ineffective. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if you would consider what Angie was doing bullying. And I don't even know what side of this I'm on, but I can see from Mary's perspective, her feeling, completely helpless in being able to solve the problem. However, if you look at it from Corey's perspective, Mary's just taking another moment to get it on camera that she's holding Angie's feet to the fire so that when Lisa watches this back, she'll understand that Mary's been loyal to her. I don't know. I guess when he's not here to recap with me, I just have to guess what he's thinking. He'll be back really soon and we'll get his spin on it. But it was just really interesting to me that, she thought that she was just going to kind of gloss over everything that had happened. And Mary starts to get really frustrated. Here's how it goes down.
Then I don't even exist. And then I'm like, Angie, you launched out at me.
I was
your enemy.
with the whole table.
You're supposed to be my sister, okay?
But you're not. I am your sister.
You're not. Find another one, okay?
Them there are fighting words to me. If someone who was supposed to be my sister said that to me, that would make me really sad. Mary goes on to tell her that she's different lately and that she's mean. She's been a little mean. For example, when she made fun of her fart. Now, I'm going to go off on a little tangent here because I heard this on another podcast earlier, and it made me realize that this is definitely a thing. I got instantly uncomfortable when this conversation started. I am very well known for not liking potty humor, toilet talk. I've always kind of taught my kids the proper words for body parts, things like that. And so this whole scene made me a little uncomfortable, but the podcast that I was listening to had a couple of other people that were in my same age demographic. And one of the ladies said that her mother did not allow her to say that word growing up. And it occurred to me that it makes me incredibly uncomfortable because I too was not allowed to say that word. Not so much not allowed, but I was also told that it was low class and that you said something else in place of it. And eventually it became one of those things where you didn't even talk about flatulence or gas. So it's a little bit of a warped notion, but it explains why that word makes me so uncomfortable. And so did this whole scene. I mean, I guess that in a way Mary was upset because Angie was gas shaming her, and they flash back to what had happened earlier and then a week before. And who cares, you guys? Who cares? I think that the reason for putting this in there was to make the argument go a little bit longer. But Mary, at the end of the day, told her that that upset her and she was hurt by it and that she felt disrespected. And I don't know if it was all that serious, but what I am happy about is that Mary wasn't afraid to talk to her friend about an issue that really upset her and bothered her. And in real friendships, that's pretty necessary. And so Angie uses the opportunity to reach out and try to take her hand. Mary tells her she's not quite ready for that yet, but did you notice she didn't pull her hand away? And it kind of started to soften the moment before a long, after Mary says that it's when I believe that I love a friend that I put them on a pedestal. And so when I feel burned, I can unmemorize someone's existence. And Angie says that she understands what that's all about. But she tells her that she loves her and that they are, soulmates. And Mary says she can't imagine her life without Angie in it. And so they kiss and make up. And thank goodness, I don't know if this is going to hold, but thank goodness, because this was one that bummed me out. I like the Angie and Mary together. So then Heather ends up meeting Lisa and they're shopping and they're, talking as they're shopping. And the first thing that Lisa does is ask Heather if it's okay for her to bring Glam to the trip. And Lisa just out of the blue starts just throwing shade at Angie, like, oh, it's so good that Angie's going. She's never had a fabulous yacht trip before. And Heather lets it go on for a little while. But then Heather calls her out and she said, if she's a mean bitch, then you're a mean bitch. And it's true. Like, Lisa, you're giving as good as you get. And honestly, Angie's not even there, nor is she the subject of conversation, but there's cameras there and you're using it as an opportunity to get a couple of digs in because you know that you've been colored into a corner by everything she's had to say to you all season. And so, of course, you want to use an opportunity where she can't put you in your place to get something on camera that is going to be disparaging or, ooh, sick burn. Well, I think it fell flat, and I thought it was amazing how Heather put you in your place, especially when we started discussing Soupman or Suit Man. Apparently, he's nobody. I went back and watched it again, and it seems like she didn't really say that she made it up, but that's what she implied, and that's how Heather took it, and that's why she kind of scolded her. And then, Heather tries to reason with her, but then she starts crying and turns the tables. And I loved it because Heather didn't back down. She was still holding her feet to the fire. And I don't understand why it had to get to this degree, but the poor girls working at the shop were like, damn, we just thought we were going to get some extra sales out of this. We didn't realize that there was going to be a knockout drag out. So that was kind of funny. And then I got distracted because all of this talk about counting Lisa's money and Lisa counting Angie's money, I started counting Lisa's money. Did you see that wad of cash that she had in her hand? And you know what? I'm going to say it. People who have money don't use money. They use credit cards. Normally because they get so many perks by how much money they spend that they know ways to get free vacations or, cash back or whatever. So it's a little sus to me that this girl is paying in cash. Why ain't you pulling out your black Amex? Just saying. I don't know. If you ask me, Lisa is a risky friend. That's what Heather told her. And I agree with you, Heather. And I loved the way you conducted yourself in this scene. And I really am starting to like season 6 Heather. If you've been with the podcast since the beginning, then you know I'm not the biggest Heather fan. So for me, this is kind of her best season yet. And this scene might be her best scene this season so far. Britani meets with Olivia, and this scene just broke my heart. The fact that it was filmed, I'm hoping that there were good intentions behind having this conversation on camera and not the intentions that I feel deep down inside we're behind this scene. I'm gonna let you read between the lines because, wow. First, Olivia walks in and Britani has to ask if she can hug her. I don't think I've ever asked my children in their entire lives if I could hug them. She's awkward as all get up when she orders a steamer and a coffee for herself. And then she tells Olivia about how she used to do that. Don't you remember when you were 4 years old? You guys, how many of us actually remember when we were 4 years old having a tantrum about a coffee? Britt is clearly very, very nervous because she's being ridiculous, thinking that this is a good icebreaker. And so she talks herself into a tailspin. And then we have this awkward silence. And then she starts to talk about, Olivia starts to talk about how things were and how she was a good mom until the age of 12 when she remarried. And Britani's take that struck me was, I can finally get to my kids when I'm a good enough wife. So essentially, she admits that she put her husband ahead of her children's well-being at the risk of losing them entirely because they went to go live with dad. So then Olivia tells us about the fact that when she finally did try to, reunite with mom, she showed up at her house because she only had 30 minutes and Jared showed up and Britani and Jared started to make out and completely ignore Olivia altogether. What? That's just ridiculous. Britani seems to me, and I don't think this is going to go over well, but don't come at me, but some of her thought processes remind me of someone who is emotionally stunted due to some sort of trauma. Her reactions to things are less mature than her 19-year-old daughters. So put that in perspective. Olivia tells Britani that she wants to be her priority, especially over people that she may or may not be dating. And then Britani spins it and tries to make it about but you're never around. And Olivia just nips it in the bud and continues to hold her accountable. And it just is heartbreaking because Olivia tells us that the worst part is that she used to be a good mom, which means she knows how to. And so Britani does say she's sorry and she doesn't know how to make it better. And it's so sad. You're my precious baby. And Olivia adds that you know nothing about. And then Britani says that I would love to get to know. And that's how the scene ends. I don't see a lot of resolution, and I don't know if I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to hope that the reason for putting this out there was to help other people that are estranged, other estranged parents and children, because I don't know that it does help, but I know that I would never put this out there in the universe. My issues with my children, minor or adult, are between me and my children. And I don't think you could pay me to expose them. I just don't. I don't know. That's just my opinion. So Meredith meets with Heather and this Meredith is giving Shannon from Orange County. She tells us that yesterday was not the greatest day. She chipped a tooth and banged her toe. And it was kind of funny. It was just giving, I'm kind of a mess today. So they talked about Lisa's lack of evolution and how Meredith always gives her a pass. And Heather is Team Angie on this one. And Meredith is firmly Team Lisa, saying that no one should be digging dirt up on their friends. And I agree with that. Nobody should be digging dirt up on their friends. But I'm hard pressed to believe that even if they come up with the receipts, that Meredith will become Team Angie. So we see that Whitney, Mary, and Angie get together to fill out their preference sheets for the upcoming Below Deck, I guess, crossover with Captain Jason. I don't know if they're showing this on the Below Deck side, so it's not technically a crossover, but they're definitely filming with Captain Jason, and it'll be really interesting because he was one of the like big deals at last BravoCon, and it'll be interesting to see if it continues for this BravoCon, especially in light of the fact that a lot of the girls are single and maybe going after Captain Jason. I don't watch that one, but I might start just because I want to know who the players are when I go to BravoCon, so that if I recognize them, I can pull them and interview them for you guys, or at least get pictures and say hi. Anyway, they start talking about, you know, filling out their preference sheets and what they should get done and so on and so forth. And then we see all of these scenes. Well, Mary's just wants to make sure that she has 2003 Dom, period. And she likes parfaits for breakfast. Girl, I understand. I've been having my own version of parfaits for breakfast, and I have never been so satiated in the morning in my entire life. So good looking out, Mare. Lisa wants dark tanning oil. I don't know. And then they start talking about, did you hear about Bronwyn and allegations just this morning of identity theft? And everybody says, oh, no one's heard from her, blah, blah, blah. So then Bronwyn and Todd meet at a bar this time to discuss the headlines. Well, at least this time he has a cocktail waiting for her, so that's nice. Apparently, these things, according to Bronwyn, have been misconstrued, blown out of proportion, twisted and turned around to come back and be current day headlines. And I remember when this was happening, it was kind of one of those, it came, it got a little bit of traction, and then it went. So apparently there was an eviction from BYU that she had to go back and pay for. And then this one's weird. It was a case under a statute that includes things like identity theft and fraud, but it was 10 years ago, and apparently the case was sealed. Therefore, Bronwyn is forbidden from speaking about it. How convenient. Well, Todd is just pissed, and he says that this is going to cause problems at his work. Bronwyn says it wouldn't surprise her if Lisa wasn't behind this, or at least behind perpetuating it. And then Todd tells us essentially how he really feels. Take a listen.
It's unclear to me why you want to go spend time with these people. Why you want to spend time with Lisa. Why you want to fly 18 hours to be in the same room with someone that continually lies about you, lies about me, lied about Gwen. I struggle to understand why you do that. I wouldn't piss on Lisa if her brain was on fire.
So those were some fighting words coming from Todd, but clearly he does not give a damn. I guess he knows that John's not going to come at him. John can't even talk back to his own wife. So maybe he's not scared anymore. I don't know. Todd tells Bronwyn, you get in the gutter with Lisa, and then you're going to be mucking around in the sludge. And by the way, if you do go with her on that vacation, I don't want to hear about it, because inevitably you guys are going to get into it. And he lectures her in such a paternal fashion that you can see Bronwyn's body language change. She kind of starts to cower. She gets smaller. She like does the lowered head with the eyes kind of looking up in embarrassment. And there are some deeper things going on here between these two. I can't help but think. So that's where it ends. Next week, we have Below Deck with Captain Jason, and Heather confronts Lisa. It looks like it's going to be really good. So to wrap up today, let me give you a little bit of Bravo news. We'll kind of do like a quick rundown of what's been going on the last couple of weeks. In case you missed it, Next Gen's Hudson and Ariana have announced their breakup. They are no longer going to be together. It appears that Hudson has moved back to Georgia and Ariana is moving in or has moved in with Riley. And on the same note, Next Gen season 2 is currently filming and apparently everybody is back. There is some speculation as to whether or not Hudson will return. We don't think he will. And we'll just have to wait and see. In other news, Aaron Pfeiffer's Denise Richards' estranged soon-to-be ex-husband was arrested at the end of their last court hearing and had to post bail and was therefore released. But he was arrested on domestic violence charges, and he was held until he posted bail, which he was able to do. So I guess there was cause enough for him to be arrested as he was walking out of court the last time they appeared. This doesn't look like it's going to get any neater before it gets messier. So we'll keep watching it. And Lala and Sheena are done. So much so that Lala says she's not speaking about it anymore. And apparently, so is the cast of The Valley. If you look back in time, you will see that there are interactions between Sheena and Janet used to be on the podcast all the time. And now Sheena is a little island over in Shishi Land all by herself because you don't see any of that on Instagram. And we all know that I've reported it here on the podcast that Sheena and Brock are not filming with The Valley. They were kind of put on pause by Bravo, even though to a certain degree, Sheena maintains that she did not go back voluntarily. At the end of the day, it seems like Sheena's going to have a rough time at BravoCon. I don't think she's going to be selling $50 good as gold albums and they're going to come flying off the shelf and she's going to have a line. But I'll tell you about that in another podcast. Apparently, the Valley cast was filming in Punta Mita, Mexico last week, and we saw that all over Instagram. Everybody's looking good. I can't wait for that to start. I think we're going to have a much better, less dark season. And speaking of the Valley, we all know that Britani Cartwright had her mommy makeover on October 1st. She's looking good, feeling good, and talking all about it, and I think that's amazing. She's still getting a little bit of backlash and people seem to be a little bit misinformed about what she's doing and why. But, you know, it's kind of all with a grain of salt when it comes to being out there. And there is a new show featuring Heather Gay called Surviving Mormonism, which is scheduled to start on November 11th on Bravo. And I think it's going to be likened to like when Leah Remini came out against Scientology. It's giving me that vibe. So I'm going to be interested to see what kind of backlash, if any, Heather gets from this and if this is a good career move for her. And then we have Alexia from The Real Housewife of Miami's ex-husband Todd Napola is suing Bravo for $10 million for a defamation lawsuit. See, I told you guys, another reason to just get rid of Alexia, put her on pause for a while, Todd goes away, crawls back under the rock he used to be under, and then we can move on with our Bravo life. Real Housewives of Beverly Hills season 15 is starting on December 4th. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be a really good season. I hear Rachel Zoe has made a big splash. And I think we've had some good first-year housewives over the last couple of years. So hopefully it'll hold. I haven't watched much of Potomac. I'm interested in it because of the Wendy and Eddie of it all. I want to watch through the alleged criminal fraudulent lens and see if I can see anything different. But other than that, I'm not really feeling the Potomac. Maybe I need to give it a second chance. You guys, October 23rd is when Married at First Sight starts. And so if you're listening to this in real time, that was yesterday. It's streaming on Peacock, which I don't remember it being on Peacock. Didn't Married at First Sight used to be on like Hulu or Netflix? I don't remember for sure. So I'm not going to like dig my heels in with those facts, but that's what my memory is telling me. And in case you missed it, the first episode of Wife Swap Real Housewives Edition aired this week as well, featuring Angie Castanevis and her husband, and they swapped with a couple who were off the grid in Idaho. They had 3 children. I watched it. It was kind of cute and endearing. I only say that because I used to like the original Wife Swap, so it's kind of hokey if you don't, and I'm sure that this is going to be a one-off. I know that they filmed 4 episodes, one of them having been the recently dropped and deleted Dr. Wendy episode, but I don't know that this will come back for any more because there's not a lot of momentum behind it, so we'll see. And this morning, Tamra and Dolo talk about Tamra's being able to identify with the scene between Britani and Olivia on Salt Lake City because of her issues with her daughter her daughter Sydney, which she still struggles with. They're better, and I don't think they're completely estranged any longer, but it's still something that is an issue. And so it made me wonder if she being Tamra, doing herself any favors talking about it on the podcast. Because if I remember correctly, one of the biggest bones of contention for Sydney was that she didn't want to be mentioned and she didn't want to be a part of Tamra's public life. So I can appreciate Tamra being raw and real on her podcast and wanting to identify in the moment, but I don't know if there was a lot of foresight in that line of thinking with regards to how it might affect her relationship with Sydney. I hope it doesn't. I hope they continue to heal. And apparently, only Cy and Aaron are the rumored Real Housewives of New York City to be returning. I think we're going to hear about this more and maybe even have a formal announcement at BravoCon. But there are rumors of cast members, including Daisy Toy, who's the makeup artist for Martha Stewart. And how about all the buzz behind the fact that Carol Ratzenwell was invited to BravoCon? Do we think that maybe she may be an addition? She and Andy made up. I love Carol. I'd love to see her back. I think that she could mix with Cy and Aaron and whoever the hell else they decide to put together. But it tells me that for sure we're going to have a New York. And in case you didn't hear about it yet, Erica Jane lost her appeal for the $18 million lawsuit. And things are not looking good for this girl when it comes to matters of the court. I'll leave it there for her. She's going to have enough trouble without me coming after her too. And then, I don't know about you guys, but I'm recently new to Below Deck Mediterranean. And is it just me, or is season 10 kind of meh? I started watching this a few weeks ago, and the earlier seasons are so good. Some of the people that show up and cause drama and leave and start fires and fights and all of the things, and even up to the food that is being served, the caliber of guests. I don't know, maybe it's just me. And that's what I thought until I came across this article this morning that is questioning whether or not Bravo has essentially jumped the shark. There is some speculation, not some speculation, there's a lot of talk that Bravo has kind of gone too far, and the days of real compelling storylines that it's gotten stale because there is nothing that they haven't done that they can do, and that maybe they're pushing a little bit too far because earlier seasons were much more well received. So what do you think? Do you think that Bravo has seen its heyday, or do you think that this has more to do with television media as a whole? Because you're listening to this podcast and you weren't doing that 10 years ago for entertainment. So that means that maybe television isn't what it used to be. And when I was growing up, the idea of not having a television would have been torturous. Now, many people don't have televisions at home. And if they do, they have a couple of streaming channels that they, pay for, but they don't have cable or satellite. They don't watch channel, local news, CBS, ABC, NBC for their news anymore. So maybe it's just that the entire format and way that we are receiving this information is changing, and Bravo is just kind of stuck in the, inevitable evolution of it all. So that's about it. I am going to leave you guys with a quick home tip because I have to get ready. I have a really exciting meeting that is going to change some of the things in the podcast, some of the things in my life, and I need to get off of this podcast and go get ready for that. So before I do, I just want to tell you, I know I mentioned that I'm working on eliminating seed oils from my life. And what I've been doing and what I did this week, I started with my refrigerator. So I'm going to give this to you as my home tip. I'm trying to do plastic reduction and additives and food dyes and seed oils. And so what I did was I went through everything in my refrigerator. I took a big black Sharpie, and if it was not good for me or if it contained seed oils, or like red dye, something like really offensive, then I put a big X on it. If I wasn't sure, if some of the things I wasn't sure because I didn't know if those ingredients were naturally occurring or what have you, I put a question mark on it. And if it was something that was good for me and it was an acceptable item, then I put a happy face. And so the idea is that as we deplete these supplies in our refrigerator, we will look for better alternatives for those that have X's, or we won't buy them at all. We will get a better alternative or the question answered as to whether or not those with question marks should continue living on in our refrigerator. And we will increase the purchase of those things that have the happy face. So I think that that's a really good way to not have to go out and spend $1,000 converting your refrigerator from seed oil to non-seed oil products. I started off with simple things like mayonnaise, dressings, and then to kind of make a dent in reducing my plastics, I ordered some silicone plastic lids that I'm going to be using over my glass containers instead of the plastic lids that they come with. And I'm going to see how that works out. So if you're interested in following along on this journey, this is a tip that you can do today. It doesn't cost you any money, and it's a good start. I'm going to do the same thing with my spice rack, with my canned goods, my snack cabinet, and we'll see how it all turns out. I'll be here to tell you all about it. I hope you're having an amazing week. I'll be back next week with more reality, pop culture, food, travel, and of course, our fantastic interview with Jasmine Harris. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Until then, I'll be here living on the verge. Make it a great day.